Hiya, my name's Charlie and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my March reading wrap up. So all the books that I read in the month of March. I have read quite a lot, so I feel like I'm going to have to whiz through them because I don't want to make this video longer than it has to be, which I'm sure it probably will be anyway, but whatever. So I'm going to dive right in. I took part in a few readathons this month, which is partly why I've read so many books. The first book that I read was A Winter's Promise by Christina Dabos, and this is the first book in the Mirror Visitor trilogy, I believe. And this is translated from French, and it's basically like this magical world. I'll read the blurb. It's really I got really confused with this, being honest. It says, lose yourself in the fantastic world of the arcs and in the company of the unforgettable characters in this French runaway hit. A mixture of awkward and misfits and misunderstood genius, Ophelia cares little about appearances or other people's opinions. She possesses two special talents, a gift for reading the past of objects and the ability to travel through mirrors, which was actually really fun, that bit. So yeah, this is like set in this really crazy, fantastical world. The world building in this book is amazing. I have to say that is one thing that is, well, lots of things that's its credit. But I did really enjoy the world building, and like I could picturing it was just amazing. But the characters themselves, I just didn't connect to. Ophelia, I just didn't connect to Ophelia, and there's another Thorn or someone, I can't remember. There's another lead character. So. Like, Ophelia gets promised to this character called Thorn, so it's kind of like an arranged marriage situation where she gets pulled away from her family. And yeah, I just didn't connect with Thorn or with Ophelia, and maybe it's because this is the first in the book, in the series, so maybe there'll be more character building in future things, but this just wasn't for me, being honest, and I don't think that I will be continuing with this series. I was quite disappointed, but I think it's just it's just quite confusing to me, and I'm not really sure why. Either which way, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It wasn't for me. Didn't really like it that much. So that is one that I read. Howl's Moving Castle. This is by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the second book I read in the readathon. I thought I was going to love this so much more than I did, and it's because this is based upon, well, this was written first, and then there's Howl's Moving Castle, which is a Studio Ghibli, film studio, and they've done like a film of this, Howl's Moving Castle, and the film is so different from the book. It just kind of made me feel a little bit let down, because it was so, don't get me wrong, this was really, really good, so this is still like a 3-star read to me, but I was just disappointed because I thought it would be so much better than it was, even though the characters were really good. Some of the characters are quite different, like Halcifer comes across quite different, and the character of, I can't remember, there's like a boy in it that is very different to me. So even though I enjoyed it, I didn't love it. So and yeah, that's all I shall say more about that. Yeah. The third book I then read that week was Cress, which is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles. No, yes, it's the third book. Yes. It is the third book indeed, and so I can't really talk about this too much because it's the third in a series. I did actually enjoy this. I enjoyed this so much more than I enjoyed Scarlet. Scarlet, I just didn't get into as much, whereas I feel like more plot happened in this, and I was like chomping through it. And even though it's like a 500-page book, I flew through this, and I enjoyed it so much. And you get to find out more of what's happening with the characters. Which I can't spoil, so unfortunately I can't talk about, but I really enjoyed this book. So in terms of the series, this one is definitely up there in my favourites. Right, that is that one. Then I shall talk about Lanny. I already spoke about this in my favourites, so I'm probably not going to talk about this here. It's about a boy called Lanny, and it's got magical realism in it, which is amazing. There's a character called Papa Toothwort, which is just brilliant. It's told from the perspective of Lanny's mum, Lanny's dad, and this, I think, Crazy Pete. It's very short, and it's. Do you know what? I love the style of this and the format of this, actually, which I forgot to mention in my favourites, actually, because there's bits where it's like the passages. Here we go. You see, there's bits when the actual text itself is like twisted and goes off, and I literally flew through this when I read it. I read it in like one day, and it's so wonderful. Oh my gosh, this book is just so brilliant. I'm going to have to reread it, and it's going to be turned into a film, as I said in my favourites. So yeah, brilliant. That made me feel so much better after having like a few books that were a little bit disappointing. Right. I also read Rebecca, which I talked about in my favourites, so I'm not going to talk about here. It was brilliant. Really enjoyed it. So wonderful. I can see why everyone loves it. Next one I'm going to talk about is How to Hang a Witch. This was, it could have been in my favourites, it's just the fact that I had so many already in my favourites. This was really a surprise to me, because this was given to me by my lovely friend Clint from Reads Readers, who I will link down below. And this is about a girl called Samantha Mather, who has just moved to Salem, because her father's sick, so I think they think if they take him back to Salem that somehow he'll get better or something. And then stuff happens, and it's very gripping. It's a YA book, I believe. It's really good. It's so out of my comfort zone. It's not something I ever thought I would really... Not that I wouldn't think I would enjoy, but it's not naturally a Charlie book, if you know what I mean. But oh my gosh, this was brilliant, and I can't wait. There's a second book called Haunting the Deep, which Clint actually gave to me, so I can't wait to read that. It's brilliant. I can't wait to read the next one. There's so much about this that I loved, and it's definitely worth a read. So if you haven't read How to Hang a Witch by Adriana Mother, 100% recommend. That's going on the floor. Another book I'm going to talk about is Atonement by Ian McEwan. Yay! I actually read this. Do you know how long I've been wanting to read this? It's been on my shelves for ages, and I just haven't picked it up. I think it's because I read My Purple Scented Novel by Ian McEwan, which was like a tiny snippet of a book. It's like 30 or 40 pages, and I just didn't enjoy it. So it kind of made me scared to read this, because I was thinking maybe I didn't enjoy Ian McEwan's writing style. I still don't think that Ian McEwan is ever going to be like my favourite author. I have still got another one of his on my shelves to read, which is On Chisel Beach. I enjoyed this. I didn't love it, but it was okay. And I've got the film. Yes, I've got the film downstairs to watch, and I need to do that probably this week, because that's the whole reason, like, why I got the books. I always want to read the book before I watch the film, and either which way. Yeah, it was good, not great. Right, here we go, getting through them. I read this poetry collection by Benjamin Zephaniah. Actually, this is a middle grade poetry collection, so this was like for middle grade March. It's brilliant, so much fun, a really good like first experience of Benjamin Zephaniah. 100% recommend it. I think it was written like in the 70s or the 80s, I don't know when it was written. It was quite a while ago, either which way. And it's brilliant, 100% recommend. I also read, speaking of poetry, this poetry pamphlet, which is by Candlestick Press, I believe. I think you can get, these are like, this was in a second-hand shop, so I think it was like 50p or 20p or something like that. But it's so good. I'm going to have to talk quickly because my battery's going to die. I've still got more books to talk about. Pressure! Yeah, this is a book. It's a poetry book collection about sisters, and it's brilliant. And I want to get more Candlestick Press poetry. Another poetry collection I read was Rapture by Caroline Duffy. I'll probably feature this in a poetry wrap-up this year. I'll probably do another poetry favourites, and this will definitely appear because it was wonderful. I love Caroline Duffy's poetry, if you know and know me. So yeah, definitely brilliant. 100% recommend. And this actually, for the readathon, this covered my green thing, my something green. So that was that. Actually, the other one could have done as well. The Girl Who Thought Her Mother Was a Mermaid. This I read in the readathon as well. This was a little bit of a disappointment. It was good, but it wasn't brilliant. It's about a girl whose mother goes missing. No, she doesn't go missing. Her mother dies, and then she goes on a journey. She's not very happy, obviously. And she goes on a journey to sort of this island that she's heard about from her grandmother. And stuff happens. It's good, but it's not great. So I can't, like... Yeah, I felt a little bit disappointed by it. It is middle grade, so I know that obviously there's only so many things, but so many other middle grades I love so much more, and there's one I'll talk about in a second, which you will see. So yeah, it was good, but not brilliant. Speaking of middle grade, I will talk about this. The Boy at the Back of the Class. This was in my favourites. I'm not going to talk about it. It's about, I say that and I talk about it. about a little boy, refugee boy, who's turned up in a class, and no, he doesn't talk, he doesn't say anything, and it's about how he makes friends with these other children. It's just so wonderful, just so beautiful, it's excellent, and it's why it was in my favourites. So that's that one. I've got some books here. Pull in close, quick, quick, quick. Mad Girl. I finished this at the weekend. A Happy Life with a Mixed Up Mind. This is from this is a non-fiction, so it's a memoir of Bryony Gordon's life. She has OCD, and I'm going to reject my sister. Sorry, Emily, you're calling me. I'm sorry. And yeah, it's basically her experiences from growing up with OCD, and like she's had like this like celebrity lifestyle that she led, and some other things. Some of this I connected with, and some of this I really didn't. But the bits I connected with, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And some of it I was just like, what? I think you're going to get that with a memoir sometimes. It is worth a read though, and it's got OCD representation, which is important because she talks about it. She doesn't talk about it as much as I thought she was going to talk about it, but it still is worth a read. So it's not amazing. I don't know, make of that what you will. It was good. Again, it was good but not great. There were bits of it that were great and that I completely found compelling. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Something that was great was Stacey Dooley on the front line with Women Who Fight Back. This was outstanding. This is Stacey Dooley interviewing, she's like talked to her experiences. We're talking to various different kinds of women. There were like women in prisons, women that experience sex trafficking, women in places of the world where violent things are happening and horrific things are happening. This moved me. Actually, this should have been in my favourites, but then my book favourites would have just taken up so much. It was brilliant, outstanding again. It's so interesting, and there was so much heart to this memoir. 100% recommend it. I love Stacey Dooley anyway, and this was just brilliant. So 100%, this is really worth a read. This is so moving and taught me so much. I definitely, yeah, so brilliant. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Don't want to make the glare go on you. This is a classic. I wasn't sure what I was going to make of this, but actually I really enjoyed this. This is about a story told over kind of like generationally a little bit as well, kind of a little bit, not really, but like Catherine and Heathcliff, and then I don't want to spoil it. They're kind of like their families, as it were. I did a buddy read of this with my sister Emily. I love you, Emily, and also Nikki from my Read Past My Bedtime. Nikki didn't like it as much, I don't think. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would. It's some weird stuff that happens in this, actually. But it's very quirky, but really good. So yeah, that's one. Speaking of quirky, I'm going to talk about Dorian Gray. I finished that I'll put a picture of that on screen. I finished that just this last week as well, and that is quirky as anything. That's a classic about a guy called Dorian Gray who has a painting done of him, and then stuff happens. I don't want to spoil it. It's again very short, so that's why I can't really talk about it too much. But I know that Simone didn't really enjoy enjoy it as much, because I read this with Charlotte, which I'll put Charlotte's channel down below, and also I talked about it with Simone because Simone was reading it ironically at the same time as me. I'll put Simone's channel down below. So me, Simone and I talk about Simone a lot as well, as you guys already know. Yeah, I don't think she enjoyed it as much, but for me I just found it so weird and so crazy, but I kind of and dark, but I did actually enjoy it, and there were some like sexist themes in it, which I didn't really enjoy, obviously. But some of it I kind of think is like, you have to bear in mind that it's of that time. But yeah, either which way, I enjoyed it. So yeah. Now speaking of other classics, I read Romeo and Juliet, and I also read Macbeth. I just wanted to read more, start reading more Shakespeare. Someone who I watched, I can't remember the names of her channel. I'm so sorry. I'll put her name across. I think it's Brandy Bookwine or Brandy. I think her channel is, and I think she's going to be doing a Shakespeare read-along in the month ahead. So, and I'd want to read more Shakespeare. I'm not doing a readathon because I told you I'm not doing any more read-alongs this month, but I do want to read more Shakespeare this month anyway. So I'll link all that stuff down below, her video about it. So I also read these middle grade books. That was my son's middle grade books that tell the same story from a middle grade perspective, of Romeo and Juliet and of Macbeth, which I enjoyed all 4 of these immensely. These were brilliant, and they I think I've already read these 2 Shakespeare's, but it brought me back to reading them at school. So, and there were so many moments I was like, oh, gave me chills and sent shivers down my spine. It was so brilliant. So 100% they were brilliant. Lastly but not leastly is Little Grape Jelly. This is from Little Grape Jelly, I think is the company actually. I don't know, either which way, Help Me poems. And these are poems written from 3 poets, and I believe they were kind of sent on emails or like tweeted or like Instagrammed or something, and it's over the course of like a year, and it was basically, they literally, one of them would write a poem and then the other person would respond to it. It was kind of like Insta poetry, is that right? And it's so brilliant. It's really quirky, a bit different. I found this in a charity shop, and it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Very surprising to me. So that is my wrap up. Let me know if you've done a wrap up, and I will find it and watch your channel below. Let me know what your favourite books were this month. Have you had a good reading month? I hope you have. I hope you've had a good month. Sending you lots of love in case you need it. And if you're new to my channel, I post videos on Wednesdays and Sundays. So that is when you'll find me. Goodbye.